Why do I hold XRP? Because Ripple's the chosen one to lead the new global digital payment system, and they use XRP. In 2013, the Federal Reserve began looking for faster payments options. 2 years later, an action plan was born and a federal payments task force was created. It included one company focused on crypto, Ripple. In 2014, the World Bank and Better Than Cash Alliance, which includes the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Clinton Global Initiative, and the governments of 32 countries, put out a report called The Opportunities of Digitizing Payments. 1 year later, the Better Than Cash Alliance featured one crypto company on their website, Ripple. Today, Better Than Cash Alliance and all other UN initiatives are focused on a single agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals for 2030. You can see the SDGs logo on Bill Gates' lapel, world-leading companies, the Better Than Cash Alliance website, and on the UN's official exchange, Exchange. What crypto is Exchange officially utilizing for their carbon credit solution? XRP. The world will move to a new international standard for exchanging electronic messages between financial institutions by 2025 called ISO 20022. Who was the first ISO 20022 member focused on distributed ledger technology? Ripple. Who's partnered with over 300 financial institutions, including Bank of America, American Express, PNC, Santander, SBI, HSBC, Standard Chartered Bank, Bank of England, India, Singapore, Scotland, Australia, and Indonesia, the largest banks in Japan, Canada, Egypt, the Middle East, United Arab Emirates, Thailand, Morocco, Bhutan, South Korea, Brazil, and Latin America? Ripple. Who is a former employee overseeing the Federal Reserve? Ripple. A former employee overseeing the world's largest asset manager, BlackRock's digital asset division? Ripple. Leading Australia's CBDC effort? Ripple. Who hired a former Treasury of the United States? Ripple. Two former Federal Reserve attorneys to their board? Ripple. Two former Clinton and Obama advisors? Former Minister of Defense and Economics of Germany? Former business director at Swift? Former Swift board member? Former CFO of PayPal? Former head of the DTCC? Former chief business officer at Uber? Former VP of Amazon and former SEC chair on their legal team? Ripple. Who's a member of the Digital Pound Foundation, Digital Dollar Project, Digital Euro Association, Mojaloop, IMF's high-level advisory board on fintech, Hyperledger Blockchain Consortium, Open Payments Coalition, Faster Payments Council, Global Payments Steering Group, Cross-Border Working Group, International Association for Trusted Blockchain Applications, Crypto Climate Accord, University Blockchain Initiative, World Wide Web Consortium, and a featured partner of the World Economic Forum with 3 members of their team directly listed on the WF website? Ripple. Now, does Ripple and XRP sound like they're going to disappear, or do they sound like they're part of a much bigger plan? You decide.
You can spend hours on end looking at the crypto world, and you could easily miss the most important crypto of them all, XRP. The short clip almost broke the internet back in September, but months down the line, is now beginning to look a lot more like a reality. Ripple is at the center of all innovative ideas, especially in the crypto world, but everyone seems to turn a blind eye to the company. Now, why is that? Well, it's because governments and other powerful individuals own the mainstream media. Even the SEC appears to be as corrupt as they come. This regulatory body has been conducting itself in an unfair manner, thereby causing so much harm to the whole crypto world. But before we get into all that, let's roll that intro. As always, welcome to Moneyside, your favorite crypto channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you get updates when we drop new videos. Don't forget to smash that like button, and you can always leave a comment or a question in the section below. Here's another hilarious tweet from NF.Crypto. He even made a funny video highlighting what he thinks of Jim Cramer and his thoughts about XRP. Of course, such comments will annoy a lot of people, and most especially the XRP army. That's because this crypto has done nothing but good. Unfortunately, thanks to the SEC's lawsuit, this crypto is the subject of most criticism, even when such comments have no relation to what XRP and Ripple are trying to achieve. Like I said earlier, watch out for mainstream media. They might be feeding you a lot of bull, since they are controlled by the 1%. If XRP and Ripple are as such scams, why are multiple financial companies partnering with this fintech business? What do they know that we don't? If you ever find yourself following the masses, especially in the financial markets, be sure you're heading the wrong way. More often than not, the masses are influenced by social media and news companies, which almost 100% of the time are quite biased. And that's the case of what's happening here. Southeast Asia is partnering with Ripple to improve cross-border transactions. Ripple is working hand in hand with some of the best companies in the world, but the SEC is hell-bent on ruining their good name. That's something they're doing together with the media. In fact, even SBF is more worried about the paparazzi compared to his freedom, as you could read from this tweet, meaning the mainstream media can easily eat you alive and change the story, which is what might be happening to SBF. No, I don't think that. We need to be cautious, though, about what we term as information and what propaganda is. chances are we might all be thinking that Ripple is on the wrong side, but that's not the case. Take your time to read through the case and you will quickly understand that Ripple is fighting for the whole crypto world. But the SEC is more concerned about protecting their secrets and taking Ripple down.
The SEC has largely been doing regulation by enforcement. They kind of gave a green light to Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then they kind of said, no, we didn't really give a green light to Bitcoin and Ethereum, but it's kind of perceived, at least in the space, as them giving a green light. And otherwise, they've pursued regulation by enforcement, initially against like really bad actors, like things that I think most people in the industry would say are outright scams. But what they haven't done is they haven't given any kind of regulatory clarity. So it's very hard for people to know whether what they're doing is going, whether the SEC is going to come back and say, you should have known all along. Ripple's a good example. We've been tremendously transparent about everything we're doing, and yet, there's this possibility that the SEC will say, hey, you should have realized all along, or, it's kind of an awkward situation for us. As far as this situation specifically, I think it's probably going to be good that there's going to be a case that's going to get at least some regulatory certainty, although it will probably take a couple of years. I think Kin made an interesting effort to kind of astroturf a little bit and try to get people behind them as defending crypto. But I think something interesting kind of prevents the crypto space from working together on regulation as well as they might, which is that if you perceive yourself as more legitimate than Kin, you don't want to be on stage with them. Whereas if you perceive yourself as less legitimate than Kin, they don't want to be on stage with you. And so everybody is trying to kind of carve out their own little, like, what we did is okay for these tiny little reasons. And if you were, part of Kin, what you would do is you would try to say what we did is okay, and you would make as narrow as an argument as you have to do. So this idea that they're going to defend crypto, I don't know, but obviously we're watching very closely to try. And I would say one of the biggest obstacles to developing digital assets is regulatory uncertainty. It's not bad laws. It's not like, oh, there's laws that make it illegal. There's laws that make it difficult. There are some of those. But the biggest problem is this fear that government agencies will turn around and say, you should have realized that everything that you're doing was already illegal. Meanwhile, there's a robust debate over whether that's the case or not.
Well, I have a two-part question for you here. Let's go with the first one. It seems to be everywhere ex-US and more developed nations, Western Europe, they are adopting cryptocurrency technology, blockchain technology quicker than we are. Is that a scalability and regulatory issue? Is it, like I had mentioned before, we have these legacy systems in place and they don't have to worry about the old infrastructure? There's roadblocks here in the US, and what do we need to overcome that?
I'll introduce that question by first telling you, I grew up in Kansas. I go see my mom, and my mom will ask me, why doesn't you don't have that many customers, relatively speaking. We've announced 200 customers, and as a percentage, very small percentage of those are US-based banks. And so people ask me, why is that? There are a handful of reasons. I'll talk about regulatory in a moment, but one important one, frankly, is that as a percentage of transactions for, let's say, a smaller economy like Thailand, the number of cross-border transactions for banks in Thailand as a percentage of their total is high. The number of cross-border transactions for a, tier 2, tier 3, the percentage of cross-border transactions is lower. And so it's a lower priority on their kind of pain threshold of, hey, yeah, the current system's developed decades ago. It's really slow. It's very error prone, but I don't have that many. Now, the second one that I think you're touching on, and certainly I think it's great that we're doing this here in Washington, D.C., is some countries clearly have provided more regulatory certainty, clearer rules of the road. I heard it described just backstage before I get on that, we've been asked as an industry not to speed, but we weren't given the speed limit. And so it's really important, I think, that governments globally provide frameworks, and it'd be nice if they're all the same, but they don't have to be all the same. It's just the companies investing and building capabilities need to understand what are the rules of the road so that we can hire and invest and understand when we go live with a bank in Singapore or Thailand or the Philippines, what they need to know to go live, and we can work within those constructs. The US, on one hand, I think the US has done a good job, and the SEC's gone after some of these scams. There's definitely been fraud in the ICO market, and I think that's constructive and healthy to weed that out. But I also think, in contrast really to what we saw happen in the internet space in the late 90s, the US provided clarity, and a lot of it was hands-off clarity, but there was clarity. And we don't really have as much of that yet with the US government, but I'm excited for this afternoon because there's a whole bunch of regulators on stage later.
Ooh, that'll be the fun part.
As always, do your own research and always trade safely, guys. Please keep in mind we're not a licensed financial advisor. All videos on this channel are intended for entertainment purposes only. You can let us know always what you think in the comment section below. Let's start a conversation. Thank you so much for watching. Couldn't be here without you. Don't forget to like this video and please click on that subscribe button below. And be sure to turn on notifications. That way you get informed whenever we post our amazing content. Thanks again. And we will see you on the next Money Side.